Okay, I'm going to call to order the Board of Public Works for the City of Menasha. Clerk Aliazi, could you please take roll call?
Alderman Kruger,
Here.
Alderman Tom Grotti,
Here.
Alderman Ted Grotti,
Here.
Alderman Rapella,
Here.
Alderman Nichols, Alderman Taylor, Alderman Sevenick, Alderman Langdon.
First up on the agenda are the minutes to approve for the June 3rd, 2019 meeting. Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the motion to approve the June 3rd, 2019 Board of Public Works meeting.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grotti. Is there any discussion? See none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to discussion and action items. First up is the payment for Yankee General Contractors for contract unit number 2019-2. Director Radomski.
Short and sweet, the project's almost completed. There's a couple of lights that still need to be put in. The contractor ordered the wrong ones, so they have to replace those next week, but grand opening is tomorrow.
Without lights.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the motion to forward to council the payment to Yankee General Contractors, Inc., contract unit number 2019-02 for Province Terrace Trail, Nature's Way to US 10 to State Highway 114 in the amount of $86,905. Payment number 6, and is that final?
That is not final yet.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman Ted Grotti. Is there any discussion? See none, can we take roll?
Vote.
Can we vote?
Doctor.
Picky, picky, picky.
He's just teasing you.
Alderman Nichols?
Just waiting for her name.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Moving on to action item number 2 is the payment for Summers Construction Company Incorporated for contract unit number 2019-01. Director Radomski.
This payment is for the work being done over at Province Terrace. They have finished pouring most of the roadway on Province Terrace. They have some asphalt left to do, as well as some sidewalk and some restoration, looking like a mid-July completion date.
Thank you. Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the motion to forward to council the payment to Summers Construction Company Incorporated, contract unit number 2019-01. That's for the new street construction out at Province Terrace, Jenny Street, Province Link, and Midway Crossing, various locations in the amount of $181,669.38. Payment number 3.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Alderman Rapalla. Is there any discussion? See none? Clerk, could we please take the vote?
Here.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Moving on to action item, number 3 is the ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances for destruction of noxious weeds. Director Radomski.
I'm going to actually discuss O-10-19 and O-11-19 since we made similar changes to both ordinances.
All right.
Both ordinances, we changed the written notice timeline from 5 days to 1 day, as well as allowed private contractors to be contracted to cut the lawns or weeds if we need to do that. That's the main changes on these. There was a due process item on the length of lawns that we did remove. The residents do still have ways of appealing these notices. It was just something that was left in the old code that we decided to remove, so.
Hey, thank you. Assuming this was introduced by myself, I will make the motion to forward to council O-10-19 and ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances, destruction of noxious weeds. There's a second by Alderman Langdon. Alderman Grotti, Ted Grotti.
Thank you, Chair. Question I have, how do we or does the city or whomever is gonna control this know if there's a problem? Is this just through a ride-by, looking at just the front yard?
So in general, we handle these on a complaint, basis. We do not generally go out looking for these, properties. We don't have the time to be able to do
Okay.
that. Occasionally, our code enforcement officer will bring us a few properties that he sees while he's out doing his daily rides. But generally, we do a complaint basis, so if, you do have neighbors or whatnot that need to have their lawns mowed, let us know, either us or code enforcement, and we'll get those notices out.
Thank you, because, I have a person that lives right behind me, and they do not cut their back grass. They just cut the front, so they don't get complaints, but now that the alderman's living behind them, I hope they're watching tonight. Cause I'm gonna, I'll be calling you guys, thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
I gave them everything we were talking about tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Are we still giving them a one-time first notification? And then if they become habitual, then we no longer follow?
So lawn and weeds is different than snow. With snow, we can do the one-time notice. With lawn and weeds, we cannot. That's why I reduced the timeline, but could not reduce that to a one-time notice. Because we have to enter onto private property, we do not have the ability to enter onto private property without that notice. So that notice that we're giving will tell them that if you do not cut your lawn or abate the weeds, we will be on your property. So that's why we cannot do the one-time deal.
I would think it would be the other way around.
Sidewalks are public property, so
I
we're
realize
allowed to
that,
go on
but-
those.
Right, but I would think that you wouldn't be allowed to go onto their property unless they were given due process of taking care of their lawn. Trust me, I'm the one that wants this more than anybody, but I'm just trying to make sure that we're doing it right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think, if it's a one-time deal, it's one thing, but if they become someone who's habitual, which means a second time, then we go ahead, contact a contractor and go in and take care of it.
We-
That's what I thought we were gonna be doing.
In discussions with the city attorney, we do not have that option for the lawn and weed, notices. We do have to still give them the 24-hour notices. But by cutting it back from 5 days to 1 day, we are, creating a more efficient timeline for us to be able to enforce this.
I'm gonna remind the board that we made a ruling on the council, no electronic devices during the meetings. Alderman Taylor.
Is everything okay?
Not yet. No. I have no interest in that. We have the ruling, no electronic devices.
For our use. Don't be so petty. This is for our use. If you turn on my microphone, let me speak, you would hear it.
What's RU?
Don't be so petty.
Alderman Taylor. Does anybody else have any discussion? Alderman Nichols.
I have my light on.
You're on your damn phone.
I'm not, I'm trying to play something for you.
I don't want to hear it.
Pertains to what we're doing, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Nichols.
You're so
Thank you,
petty.
Chair. Can you, Dr. Donsky, can you tell us how the process currently works?
So currently, we get a complaint, we'll go out there, as soon as we are able to, deliver a 5-day notice, for them. Have to go back 5 days later to check the lawn, make sure that it's still not cut. If it's still not cut, then we have to schedule someone, usually the following day or the day after, to be able to come out there and cut the lawn. So this is taking away that 5-day process and moving it down to a 1-day process, so that we no longer have to tell residents, yeah, thank you for reporting it. it's gonna be at least a week and a half before we can do something. You know, that's the biggest complaint we get is you get a report on Monday and you can't do anything until the following Wednesday usually. You know, by the time 5 days, you go back, check. You know, so that's our biggest complaint, is we wanna be able to handle this. If we get a complaint Monday, you know, give them the notice, you know, probably Tuesday, you know, get out there, look at it, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, and then, you know, schedule someone to cut it Friday. So hopefully it can be taken care of in that same week rather than a week and a half or 2 week period.
And I'm just talking about the noxious weed ordinance right now. I have some of the same questions for the other one, but I'll save that for then. So you're looking to cut the 5-day process down to 1 day or 24 hours to make operations more efficient from the Public Works perspective.
Yes, we feel that this will allow us to, you know, by being able to cut down that time period, we're able to enforce it a little quicker and not have to worry about what we did a week ago. We can go back and go, well, we gave this notice yesterday, we can go back and check it today and, you know whether they're in violation. So it does help us out operationally.
And do you currently track where and collect data for where these situations occur so that you can establish whether or not we have habitual offenders and who they are?
We do, in the past, the tracking's been a little light. We've started to have a better tracking system this year as far as who is actually getting the notices, when they're getting notices and all that. So we're doing a better job of tracking this year, so we'll eventually get to know who's habitual and who's, you know, a one-time deal.
Okay. And how might people find out what these noxious weeds look like?
If they have any questions, you know, they can either go on the internet or they can, you know, contact us if there's any questions. You know, we'll be able to have our weed commissioner or, you know, someone in our forestry department might be able to help them identify it if they have, you know, questions about it.
Okay, because I know what some of them are, but others, if you're gonna give me the scientific name, I don't have a clue.
Understandable.
I was mostly supportive of the changes to the snow ordinance because the sidewalk is public property. I'm conflicted with this ordinance because I think, because 5 days to 24 hours is pretty drastic. And it doesn't allow sufficient time for the property owner to respond to the notification, especially if that property owner is out of town. And I know that some property owners are just really having trouble getting into their yards to mow the lawn right now, and it's growing like a weed, so to speak. And since these ordinances allow us to enter private property, I think it's important that we have some way to recognize that and to respect the fact that the property owner has rights to their property as well. So while I might support a 3-day process, cutting 5 days to 3, I'm really struggling with 24 hours at this point. And I'll yield the floor and see what other members have to say.
Alderman Taylor.
The Personnel Policy Handbook clearly states we can use electronic devices for the purpose of city business.
We are talking about the ordinance.
That's exactly what
And
I'm
if you're
talking
gonna play
about.
something, you better clear it first,
That's-
Alderman
That's
Taylor.
exactly what I'm talking about. So, Alderman and Chair of the Personnel Committee, Ted Grady, knows that too, that the business is of the city, you can use an electronic device. Department of Public Works Director said, you call Joe Paulzine with the grass problem. I called Joe Paulzine, and Joe Paulzine says you should call the city garage. And so Josh said we should call Joe.
I'm not gonna allow
Joe says
that
you
to
should
be
call
played on
city
the mic.
garage.
I will
That's what
not
I
be-
was looking into.
Alderman Taylor, I'm gonna tell you right now, we changed the ruling to state that electronic devices during all meetings shall not be allowed while common council or committee is in session. That was what was passed. It wasn't for anything else, it was
And,
not allowed.
You know, I was looking to stop something before it got too far. Excuse me for that. You know, you go absolutely ballistic without even asking, you know.
I shouldn't have to ask when
That's
it's, when
pretty-
it's the rule. We are moving on. Do you have something to
It's
talk
pretty
about this
childish.
ordinance? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm in favor of the 1 day, I guess, because specifically with my next door neighbor, they've cut their lawn 3 times this year. And then so finally today I got fed up and made copies of this and the ordinances, damn right. And took it over to them and said, here, we're gonna be voting on this tonight, just so you know, I will be voting for it. Those people just plain out don't cut their lawn. So I am all for 24 hours, absolutely. I got a question, and I hope this is okay, because we are talking about ordinances. So ordinances, that mainly pertains to our code enforcement personnel? Is that who should probably be taking care of these complaints and not, I go out to city garage a lot just to visit. Those guys, they don't got time to be running around and checking these homes. Isn't that what we hired a code enforcement officer for?
We have, starting this year, worked more closely with Joe Polzine on this issue. It's a team effort right now. We are handling a lot of the first-time calls through our department, and then habitual offenders are kind of getting shuffled over to Joe Polzine. It is definitely a joint effort, though, and that's why I said you can contact either of us. You know, it might not be, you know, Joe might not have time that day to deal with it. We might not have time, so we do kind of work together with the
Okay.
other department.
So it's just not strictly public works out there, 'cause, yeah, okay, thank you.
Alderman Rapala.
Thank you very much, Alderman Kruger. Thank you. Again, I guess I have 2 questions. Two questions. One, who's the weed commissioner?
Currently, the weed commissioner is Thad Brown.
Okay, he's highly compensated for the weeds, I'm taking. Sure. How do you schedule, I know the office, or, the mayor went on a ride-along with, one of the police officers one time. How do you do a ride-along with Joe? Can you do a ride-along with Joe? Just as long as he's got a big, thick thing for ordinance violations. Okay. Who do I call? Cause I'd love to go with him.
Call
Okay. All right. What's Joe? Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor's got the number.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Up against the wall.
Thank you, Chair. I think did you say my name?
Yes.
I'm sorry, there's too much laughter. It's back to the Joe Paulzine thing. I did have a caller from Doty Island call me, and I asked if I would take care of it, and it does take 2 weeks. And what part of the problem is Joe Paulzine only goes out on Mondays. So, yeah, so if you call on a Tuesday, you have to wait till the next Monday, and that was the problem I had, and that's how it was explained to me the last time I called. And that was just 2 weeks ago.
And if that is the process, I would encourage you to contact myself and we'll work through those details. So Joe does a lot of complaints. Some of them do get very, very stacked up. This
Sure.
year, we actually did Because of the concerns of weeds, we actually, 2 weeks in a row on a Monday, went out and hit two very large areas. Joe wrote 75 letters of violation. That's something that we don't do.
So don't
We-
feel it's not being done, it's being done. I mean, listen to the numbers,
We-
75 is a
we-
big number.
And that's letters being sent out and everything and delivered. So again, it's not something that is always done just on Mondays, but this year we wanted to take a little more proactive approach, hearing kind of the conversation from the council that we want to be a little more proactive in the early season. That hopes to get some of those people thinking that we are keeping track of these things. And in addition to getting Joe involved is that if it comes to issuing citations, things of that nature, yes, we can go out there and cut the grass, but if it's a nuisance of 1, 2, or excuse, not 1, but 2, 3, 4 times of habitual offenders, Joel's gonna be the person that's gonna write that ticket, so that's why we wanted to build that relationship, and we are taking a little bit different approach this year.
And I just kind of want to mention what Alderman Langdon said here. There are people out there that just are not going to cut their grass. And they're homeowners. And it amazes me. And so those are the habitual offenders, and the only way that they're going to start cutting is if we hit them in the pocketbook. And I think that's what we need to do, and that's why I support Alderman Kruger's ordinance.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. So we're still talking about ordinances, Sam. I guess I got a concern. What's Joe doing the rest of the 4 days?
Alderman Langdon, no, that's getting off track. That is
Well,
getting off track.
We're talking ordinances, so if he's only doing ordinances on Mondays,
Grass.
That's only grass ordinances, and we're not
Right.
talking about any other ordinances, so.
right, so he only writes citations on Mondays.
For grass.
What is he doing the other 4 days with the grass?
Mark,
It's
Mark.
actually the weed commissioner's job in reality.
Mark, if,
But-
again,
I disagree with
we
that.
do not need, I don't think, publicly talk about Mr. Posey.
Right.
If you would like to discuss it further, you can contact me. And again, I can assure you, we are doing code enforcement on a weekly basis. He is not working 1 day a week and driving around the next. I can assure you that. So, again, we can get back on.
Okay, is there any other discussion? See none, can we take the vote?
Motion carried on roll call 7-1.
Moving on to action item number 4, Director Adamski already explained it, so I'm going to make the motion to forward to council ordinance O-11-19, an ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 1 of the Code of Ordinances, regulation of length of lawn and grasses, introduced by myself. Is there a second? We have a second by Alderman Ted Grady. Is there any discussion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. Director Donsky, again, this is a reduction of 5 days, ability to come into compliance down to 24 hours.
That is correct.
Okay. And under abatement of nuisance, about 2/3 through, after it says that a notice will be given, it says the notice will detail the city's plan to bring the property into compliance with this section. Can you tell me more about the city's plan?
99% of the time it will be mowing. There may be some weird occurrence where there would only be a trimming necessary or something like that. But the city's plan for the vast majority of length of grasses is mowing.
Okay. It's vague to me, and I don't know if there's a correction for it, but I feel like if a resident was to read the code of ordinances, that they would expect to understand through that reading what the city's plan is.
it just gives the city a little bit of flexibility where if it's not a cut and dry case where mowing is the solution, say someone has, 2-foot tall grass along their fence facing the street and someone complains, that's still a violation of our ordinance. However, we can't mow that area. We would need to use a trimmer on that area, so it's technically not mowing, so that's where the city's plan, it's vague for a reason so that we have options out there to abate the nuisance. That's why it's a little bit vague.
Okay. Again, my concerns with this ordinance are the same as the first, that we are sacrificing people's property rights, their private property rights, for the convenience of city workers. And I have some concerns with that. I think it puts too much authority and power in the hands of the city without respecting the rights of the homeowner.
Is there any further discussion? See none, could we take a vote?
Motion carried on roll call, 7-1.
Moving on to discussion and action items number 5 is the Racine Street Bridge aesthetics discussion. Director Adamski, could you please explain what's going on and what you expect of the body?
So provided within your packet, we also have copies if you would like to see them on the screen. We can do that as well. Of the proposed bridge house and bridge that was determined as part of our little work group with Alderman Grotti, Alderman Nichols, Commissioner Cruikshank, Mayor Murphy, Sam, myself, Joe Stevenson. This is the design that we had come up with. We think that it is a very, very good design. It looks very good. It's also, well within our budget. I think it comes in right around about $286,000 for the bridge house, the pedestals, as well as the decorative lighting along Racine Street. So what we're looking for from the council or the Board of Public Works tonight is to forward this design on to council for approval.
Alderman Tom Grotti.
Boy, I haven't talked this much, and thank you. Yeah, I know. As stated, I did sit on the aesthetic committee, and I'm okay with all of this except for I do not like the aesthetic appeal of that tower. I feel the city's selling itself short. And I'm not asking for any structural changes, any color changes, any material changes. I really think it needs some appeal with pattern, soft patterning, or some type of design element on it. I don't want to mimic the Taco Street Bridge. I don't want it to be a wannabe bridge. I think this should be unique. This building will sit between 2 other buildings on the river, one which annually gets the Lakefly Award, and the apartment house, the condos, on the other side that looks like they were put together with sale items that they ran out of. Every possible material they could get, they threw on that building. This is our responsibility, not the responsibility of a developer. I think it just needs some type of element to it to give it more, well, I'll even quote my nephew, 11-year-old Evan, who just finished his stint at Clovis Grove School. I showed him this picture and he said, "Boy, Uncle Tom, that's ugly. It looks like a prison tower." That's the generation we're building this for. It's not just for us. And if I think of 11-year-old can say something like that, we really should examine the structure a little more. We've got it in the budget. It's not like we can approve all this with the condition that maybe we do look at this. This isn't going up for another year and a half. We have time to add something to this. And I just think we're selling ourselves short a bit by not adding a bit to this. We've got developers coming in here just tonight. This guy that wants to come in and do something, we're trying to pull people from out of the community, and are we just showing them, oh, the city just throw this up with no aesthetic sense to it? We might as well do the same thing. That's how I feel. So I just didn't want my name on that piece of architecture. The rest I'm okay with. I even added the 3 other pedestals to finish. They never finished the end of the bridge at the Bonta site. They just had railings stopping. So perfect place for another entry gateway. And then the part that runs down, the fencing, the pedestrian fencing that runs towards, which will be the old Doc Larson site, just ended too. So we'll add another pedestal there. They're about $5,000. So we're still have plenty of money under budget, and I do have an idea, but I don't know if it'll go through, but I'm sure it wouldn't cost more than a couple $1,000s to do, just to dress that up. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Chair. I think I've probably only called Tom 2 or 3 times ever to discuss a matter on the city council, and because he served on this committee, I was shocked when I got this photo. This is not Tom's handiwork. Tom has a better eye, so I had to call him and find out, you know, what's going on here. I had the same feeling that to me it looked like a guard tower. So I'll just end it there and say I agree with what he's said tonight, and that I think we need to add some different aesthetics to this and take in consideration. Let's take a look at our downtown. Let's take a look at the rest of our community and incorporate it into this building. Like you said, this is for future generations, and this is not the legacy that I want to leave behind.
Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in that the thing that I don't like about it is the windows all the way around. Isn't the person supposed to be watching the water? But he can be watching downtown or wherever. That's what I don't like about it. It's, you know, take away half that glass. Doesn't need to be he doesn't need to be looking. He can't see downtown right now unless he stands outside. So
The DOT actually requires 360-degree viewing out of these bridge towers. They have to be able to see in all directions. They have to be able to see both the rivers as well as up and down the bridge and the roundabout. So they do need 360-degree viewing. Doesn't mean that you can't break up the windows a little bit, but they do need windows on all sides so that they can see out those windows to anywhere that they need to see.
is that new or just been put in lately, or
I don't know when that was put in, but it's a requirement that they do have.
that they have
currently.
now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Tom Grady.
As Josh stated, there are all these stipulations that we did have to work with. We're not seeing any of the apparatus that's going to be on the inside yet. You're just seeing an empty blank tower. There's all the control paneling and all that stuff that's going to be hanging down in front of a lot of those windows. So that's an issue. The other issue that I had with this was they're going to add downspouts to this. So those downspouts, where they're going, is not on a pedestrian walkway. It's right into the river. But they're going to bend that downspout, 2 of them. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 bends and then the window down. And this is where I got laughed at the committee when I suggested, what about rain chains? Some decorative rain chains that would flow that's all the water has to be directed. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of shut down in the committee, and the architect was kind of, oh, that's something we haven't done before. That could be interesting, but I got laughed at by someone on the committee. And I've talked to a few other people that have rain chains, and they say they work, they're phenomenal. So, that's just another point. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
You know, I asked when these meetings were for this committee, and I was told we were gonna get a lot of documents from them, everything they saw, we would see. And I asked Josh to let me know when the meetings were, nothing. So it was a secret committee, and I don't see the documents that we asked for, that were gonna come to this committee. It's all, here it is, this is what you gotta live with. We didn't see what this committee got, and we were told we would. So I'm very disappointed in having secret committees in this city. And I would like to see on the limestone there below the windows, both direction, not the Racine Street Bridge, but like there, you got the Racine Street Bridge. Here's an opportunity, Menasha welcomes you, or welcome to Menasha. Here's an opportunity, instead of telling them how it's the Racine Street Bridge. Great time to do a welcome sign to the people coming into our community. I talked to 2 bridge tenders, showed them this, and they said the 360-degree is a must, that they have to have that. Last year, if you go into that building, very limited. Last year, we had a woman drive her bike past the gates and down into the pit. And it's very difficult at night to see these things, and even during the day. Bridge tenders also asked that they would like, when that bridge opens, simulated daylight underneath. We've had people fall out of boats there, and so they would like to see some very bright lighting underneath that bridge when it opens. I would like to know if we had different type of railings that we're gonna vote on, and different type of different scaping. Also, I don't see any recommendations or paperwork from this committee that's recommending to us. Also, I think this body needs to back up. October 2015, we were talking about this project, and the state changed some rules on us about these amenities. And we shouldn't get stuck with these amenities. We should appeal this body to save the taxpayers a lot of money. And we started this process before the state changed the amenities process. Well, somehow there's something wasn't signed or whatever, but all through this process, the state's been there. Bertrand and these guys have been with us, and we would be foolish not to send some document to the state level appealing that we have to pay for this, since the original project was October 2015. So I would like to see, by next meeting or something, put it on the agenda and have this body send something out to the state of Wisconsin and to Amanda Stuck and Roger Roth. In fact, I think we should even invite Roger Roth here and Amanda Stuck the night that we bring up this document, and about the amenities program that was changed after we started this project. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Chair. Have they decided to go with the grate or the soft surface? Was the soft surface out?
The soft concrete, the liquid
Concrete.
concrete.
So they are doing a half-filled concrete grate. So it is still going to be technically a grate, but it will function a lot like the concrete. So it will not have the sound of the grate. It's actually going to be a lot quieter.
Will
than the
there
grate.
be the protections for for bikes to go over, like I shown those pictures
I
from
believe that
Milwaukee?
they do have some, stuff for them,
Okay.
so.
What I'd like, if everybody's done, I appreciate the work the group has done, I mean. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like, for our next time, I'd like to send this back, okay? And kind of review the tower again. I think we had enough opinions here, and Tom, you're on the committee. I think you have the feeling of this council. And also maybe some more, photos of the rail. Cause the rail's in here, but it's kind of small, we're not really sure what we're getting, so hopefully, Chair, I'd like to have this sent back, but Tom has something to say, and then I think we should move on from this.
Well, I think
Hold on,
we.
hold on. Alderman
Sorry.
Tom Grady.
Thank you. I'm kind of sure we voted on the railing at an earlier meeting. We all voted yes, we picked out that railing before we even went to committee.
Right.
So that's a done decision, and it's,
The color's different though.
we didn't pick a color.
Okay,
We picked the style.
but you have a brown color in here now.
It's bronze, it's the same color as the roof tone.
That should be presented.
And one thing I wanted to just tell, the savings that we did end up with, this DOT is paying for that concrete facing. That's $200,000. That didn't even affect our budget. That's why we came in way under budget. Otherwise, we'd be paying for that concrete to cover up that metal wall that was going to be up. Mayor Don brought the ordinance for the Canal District, and, well, probably Sam too, and made sure that the DOT knew that we wouldn't allow that within our downtown area. So they took that on their dime. So I just wanted to clarify that even though they have a lot of rules, we still can kind of work with them. Thank you.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important to back up and talk about the process that occurred. The working group was established by the Board of Public Works, and the first meeting was in May, perhaps. And that working group consisted of myself, Alderman Tom Grady, and Commissioner Cruikshank from the Plan Commission, who has architectural experience. She's been a design architect for many years. And so the first meeting consisted of the DOT informing everyone of their requirements for the project and basically outlining some materials that we could pick from and decide. They showed us pictures of the Wisconsin Street Bridge in Oshkosh, of the Two Rivers Bridge, and they also let us know what maintenance costs would be incurred over the life of the bridge for the use, with the use of those specific materials. That was pretty much the first meeting. And then your working group took it upon themselves to visit some of the bridges the bridge towers that they offered us as examples. And also, Ms. Cruikshank was very instrumental in gathering photos of bridge towers that are in existence now from Appleton, Milwaukee, Chicago, all over the place. And we used those examples to sort of steer the DOT in a bit of the direction that we thought we were going. The group agreed that what we were looking for was something that would be low maintenance, would include all of the DOT stipulations, We were very aware of the prison tower aspect of these facilities. And so, it was important to have something different from what we saw on the Wisconsin Street Bridge and the Two Rivers Bridge. I use those as examples because those are some of their latest projects that they've done. So something that was unique to Menasha, unique to the Fox Valley, and unique to this situation with a house and a drawbridge. And so it was challenging. We used those as examples, and eventually we landed with this. And I agree with Alderman Tom Grady. I think there are things about this tower that all of us don't like. And it was something that achieved the goals that were, established by the group in the beginning and followed the DOT's requirements for the project. There is a remaining budget, as outlined on the summary breakdown, of $213,800. And since the Common Council allotted $500,000 for the Racine Street Bridge project, that means that those funds are still there for us to spend if there is something that we wish to add to the tower, or and I'm assuming that it might have to follow DOT guidelines at some point as well. So there are things that can still be done if we're looking to add some sort of special element or something different. This, what I'll call a basic structure, is what came out of that working group and what the DOT would build and what would stand here for many years to come. So that was something that was agreed upon in that working group, and I will tell you that it was not just the three people that you put as part of that group, but Director Radomski, Director Schrader, the planner, Planner Stevenson, and then the DOT brings about 10 people with them, not just Bill Bertrand, who you've seen here a million times, but engineers and design people. I mean, I walked in that first meeting and I was expecting about 3 people and there were 13. So you're working with a lot of different stakeholders in this situation. And so what we initially thought was going to be was not going to work out in our favor. We really came to an agreeable solution, and what I see as probably a starting point for us to do what we want to do, or what the community envisions us doing at the end of the day with that tower. Director Radomski, can you talk about the timeline requirements going forward?
Timeline requirements are they need to know probably a 90% aesthetic design, fairly quickly here. They, throughout this process, they've, been well aware that they wanted to have us have a decision 2 weeks ago on this. As far as, this exact building? Does it need to be this exact building? No, but are we comfortable with the main scheme of the building? You know, the bricks with the gray, limestone features, the bronze top, you know, are we comfortable with that with, you know, minor aesthetic improvements, you know, going forward? That I think they would be perfectly fine with, you know, but to go back to the drawing board right now, we may end up with nothing. We may end up with a bridge tower that they design and they, you know, say it's whatever they want, you know, or they could end up with this one and regardless of what we want. Yeah, I don't know I'll talk with Bill tomorrow, but I don't know what they're gonna say if we say we need to go straight back to the drawing board now, you know, and start having these meetings with, you know, the 10-13 DOT personnel as well as us 6. I mean, it's gonna take 2-3 weeks to get us together again, just time frame stuff. So timeline, I don't know the exact timeline, but it is, you know, I've been made aware that it's very imperative that we have these decisions fairly quickly.
Okay, so you'll give Bill Bertrand a call tomorrow and talk more with him about that.
I'll see him tomorrow morning.
Great, you'll see him personally, even better. All right. I really do think, given all of the people that were involved in these conversations and the timeline going forward and Josh being willing to follow up with Bill tomorrow, that it really is important for us at this point to at least put our best foot forward right now and recommend this to the Common Council, get this out of committee, and then, you know, there's 2 more weeks till the next council meeting. Josh will have more information and everybody will have had some time to give some thought and consideration to the things that have been said this evening. And so with that, I'm going to make the motion that we recommend and forward to council the Ristine Street Bridge aesthetics plan as presented this evening.
We have a motion, is there a second? With no second, the motion dies.
I would,
Hold on,
I want,
hold on. I'm gonna let Alderman Taylor talk first. Oh, sorry. Are you done, Alderman Nichols? Yeah. Alderman Taylor.
Josh, where do we see all this information? Now we find out that the state of Wisconsin had people at the table. Where do we see all this information? Where's the minutes? Who was the chair?
It was not a committee meeting, it was a standard, you know, meeting with the DOT. There was no minutes taken, there were no chairs, it was just a.
I'd like you to put that in writing for me, okay? I appreciate that. And also, when is the next meeting scheduled?
We don't have any meetings scheduled at this point.
Okay, but you're gonna have a meeting scheduled.
We were not intending on having any meetings scheduled. We had brought this to the council and that was going to be we had our last meeting maybe a week or 2 ago. And this was what came out of it.
Okay, and certainly Mayor, Josh, if you have another meeting, I've asked before, people in my district have asked before, that they know when the meeting is. And also, I think the picture doesn't do this justice with all those thick, if you will, barriers between the windows. Glass has changed a lot, and certainly if you look in the Faith Technology Building, you'll see that. I would like to see welcome to Menasha on there, or Menasha welcomes you. And it's an opportunity to showcase our name. And also, the 2 bridge tenders asked me if they said down in the southern states that glass is bulletproof. Is this glass bulletproof? And if you can find that out. From Bert, when you meet with Bertrand, ask him that.
I can ask him.
And also, if you'd ask Bertrand to put it in writing, put it a memo to you when we have to have this completely done on the states.
Okay.
So we have a date. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna pipe in here for a second. I mean, the tower is missing something and it sounds like a Tom doesn't think that it's gonna be overly bearing to actually spruce it up a little bit to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, if I'm hearing it right, and it shouldn't affect the budget too much. So let me ask you, Josh, if this was, shot back to the group that was actually doing this for 2 weeks and bringing this back to Public Works with an additional design to, to take a look at, that's not gonna change the actual dimensions of the structure itself, more of an aesthetic thing with the bricks, is that still falling within a comfortable timeline, with the state?
If we were to go back to the working group, unfortunately, the earliest that I could see us all getting together is probably at best next week, although I know I may not be available next week. I somehow got selected for jury duty, so I don't know how often I'll be in the office, so I can't plan anything. As far as, the renderings, if we were to change the design, the last time we had renderings, it took the architect about 2 weeks to do them. So we're probably sitting mid-July, for that council meeting, with an early August, or mid-July with Board of Public Works, early August council. My gut is telling me that the DOT would not like that timeline. They've been, moving pretty fast on this one, and they at least need the majority of the aesthetics decided so that they can start working on the structural design of this, probably yesterday.
Thank you. Alderman Tom Grady.
Thank you, Chair. I'm comfortable with what this is to go forward. I just want to know if we have to put an amendment in with the possibility that we could do a little tweaking on this tower. I don't want, if this is the tower we're getting in this whole packet, I don't think I'm going to vote for it. I'm okay with everything else. I don't want to go through another meeting with the DOT. I mean, that is a bit intimidating, but, and it's lengthy. They're like 3 hours we sit and hash this things out. It's not like we're having a happy cup day, but I'm comfortable with what we've got as long as we can do something with the tower. There's not much you can change, railing we picked the railing already. We voted on that. The bronze color is a lot better than a black roof. So, and it all matches, it all flows. It's just, that needs something. Thank you.
And Director Adamski.
And Tom, I do not believe that minor aesthetic, improvements, stuff that doesn't change the overall character or materials that were chosen, just, minor things like what you were showing me earlier today with the use of the old bank bricks, something like that, I do not believe would be a hindrance to the design process, and I think those can be added later on, no real issues. So I don't think that minor aesthetics things are, but we need to know, is this the direction we want to go with the full tower, or do we need to go back and rethink the whole thing and come up with a brand new idea?
Alderman Nichols.
Yeah, that was my question. Are the ideas that you have having to do with the actual structural design, or
Surface.
the materials that it would need to go back to the DOT? Is it something that the city could embark on their own? Or is it part of the actual building process that the DOT will be doing?
No, I don't want to, it would be same material. Sam, I don't know if, I sent you a picture today, and you probably, I have it on my phone, but it's not gonna do any justice to that. But no, it's not changing color, it's not changing materials, it's not changing size, and it's not changing anything above the limestone. And one thing I think we have to say Racine Street Bridge, because that's for boat traffic, so they know what the bridge is. So I think that's part of the That's on the water side,
That's fine.
yeah, so. But
So that doesn't answer my question. Is it something that the city can embark on their
Well, I don't-
own, or
I don't
that,
know. Is the city putting the brick on? No.
no?
So everything would be scaled to be exactly like that brick. So it'd be the bricklayer laying the element down.
Okay, does that help you answer the question?
Yeah, and that should not be a major design change that the DOT would require. It would just be, you know, whether the council's comfortable with letting that committee make these small little aesthetic improvements.
So it doesn't impact the scope of the project with the DOT, is what you're saying? Okay,
The lower base should be more of like a limestone around it, the way I see it, even if it's just that block that you and I talked about.
Well, I don't want it to look
Do you
like
have
a
any further
concrete
questions?
tower.
well, no, I already
Oh.
made a motion that died.
Yeah.
I don't know what my options are now. Can someone else make that motion again?
You can make a motion to reconsider, I believe, correct? It died, yeah. Yeah. Alderman Taylor.
If we could go back to that slide of the bridge tower. I think, and I appreciate the Racine Street Bridge facing the river traffic, but I was talking about the northwest facade on that with Menasha welcomes you, or welcome to Menasha. I think what it would really look very nautical with that design if there was either a weather vane on top or a cupola on top with a weather vane and something, you know, maybe with our area here, we could have something like that manufactured at the high school with their welding plasma department could cut out an iron design of something, or you could have it professionally made. But I think if you would add a cupola or a weather vane to this, a nautical weather vane, a sailing ship or something, I think it would really add a lot to it and put a little more height to it and take away from just that static tower look.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make the motion to forward to the council the Racine Street Bridge aesthetics design with the understanding that the minor elements will be worked on by the same committee members to be able to change it within tolerances of the DOT.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Alderman Tom Grady. Is there any discussion? See none, can we take vote? No, we could do a voice vote. So.
With the understanding that the minor elements will work done by the, will be worked on by the working committee.
Correct. Okay. Okay. We'll take a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 6 is the state mutual financial agreement for the state-let highway project and the Racine Street Bridge. Director Adamski.
So this is the agreement that we need to sign with the state for the aesthetic improvements for this project. They had originally given us an agreement that was more of a state municipal agreement that's more of the operation and construction, you know, type thing. We actually did not want to sign that, so we chose to go with a state municipal financial agreement, which is a modified version of the SMA that doesn't talk anything about ownership or operations. It purely is about the funding mechanism. You will see that the cap for municipal funds for the aesthetic elements is, it's $87,000 for the decorative lighting cost, $413,000 for the aesthetic elements, and then $12,000 for non-participating items. So those are the funds that we could be eligible to pay, based on the amounts that were previously approved by council. Obviously, if we do not include any dollars that would get us up to that amount, so if we stuck with the $286,000 bridge tower that we had, that would not get us past that $413,000, so we wouldn't need to go into that full amount. We would only pay for that $286,000. So.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Alderman Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make the motion to forward to council the state municipal financial agreement for a state-let highway project, and that's for the Racine Street Bridge.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second by Alderman Nichols. Is there any further discussion? Alderman Taylor.
Josh, this is just on the amenities. This has nothing to do with a contract, say,
This does not make us own the bridge. It does not make us operate the bridge. This is purely on the cost of the bridge, which includes aesthetics.
so on the cost of the bridge aesthetics.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. My question was for Attorney Captain, and she is not here. There she is. Thank you. I'm looking under terms and conditions of this contract, and it's right at, in number 1, where it says the municipality shall pay to the state all costs incurred by the state in connection with the improvement. And then, about halfway through that paragraph, it starts with, in order to guarantee the municipality's foregoing agreements to pay the state, that the municipality agrees and authorizes the state to set off and withhold the required reimbursement amount as determined by the state from general transportation aids or any other monies otherwise due to the municipality. So my question, having read that, is, does this agreement state that they would withhold our general transportation aids as payment for these, or that we would be billed and pay them like we pay most people, all people?
Attorney Captain.
The latter. We
Okay.
would be billed, and then if for some reason the city did not pay the bill, then they would be able to offset that amount against aids that were coming to the city.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, can we take vote?